What is going on, guys? This is take
Oh,
number 2. We just had a live stream started, and Ryan
Ryan ruined it.
and so we'll give folks a few moments to.
It's not every day that
in.
Michael calls you a dingaling.
Oh goodness, man!
Oh my gosh! You
Super
guys
cool.
probably all heard me go, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
There was no undoing when I hit the end broadcast button.
Yeah, it's a done deal once that happens. So let me send out a note on. Let's do this real quick.
What a failure! People are retarded.
Nah, it's the first time in like 4 years I've ever done that. So, and I didn't do it. You did it. Let's try this again.
Yeah, it's the first time. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just the first time it's ever happened. You know, it's
all right. So I just posted.
I'm just a trendsetter. Just a trendsetter.
Yeah.
That's all I am.
Exactly. So I'm just going to delete that one.
I got to reinvite.
All right, cool. We got some folks. Welcome back, guys. Ryan, he clicked in broadcast. He thought he was leaving the chat. So.
I made everybody leave is what ended up happening. I said, no, I'm not going to do this on my own. Everybody is leaving with me. And that's what happened.
Like, we're taking down the ship. Cool, man. Good to see you guys. All right, so Jonathan needs another link.
I sent him one.
Very cool, brother. We got you covered, man. So funny. Internet Explorer killed it. No, Ryan killed it.
Well, I definitely killed it. And I died because Firefox on the Mac keeps dying in this. And then
Ian
I
has
changed
some,
it over to
some wise advice for you, bro.
Yeah, Ian.
That thing is, and it's big too. It says end.
I didn't read it. I didn't read it.
I love it.
I didn't read it.
Fun. Hey, if you can't have fun, take away Ryan's privileges. You got it, man.
I don't have any privileges.
Oh, too much fun.
My wife wears the pants in this relationship.
We'll get Jonathan in here. We'll just start the conversation over. So while we're waiting on him, we'll throw this up here. So we're talking about what can we do to take our home theaters to the next level.
And you guys were talking about lights.
Yeah, we're talking more than just speakers or adding an amplifier, just some things that are kind of creative, things that kind of will really enhance that experience. Make sure. Okay, he says he does not.
I'm doing it again.
I'll say sending again. Okay. So Ryan's going to take care of that. I'll kind of segue into here while we get Jonathan back in here. So what I was sharing is when I started building my home theater 15 years ago, one of the things that I did that kind of, at that time, it was pretty basic, but it took my home theater to kind of a new level. And it's going to sound kind of rudimentary, but I thought it was really cool. I went down to Lowe's and I bought a Lutron. It was called a Maestro dimmer. And so I replaced my just toggle switch on the as you enter the room for my lights. And what was cool is you could take that dimmer and program it to fade over. I think it was either 15 or 20 seconds. So I would hit play on my movie, and then I had another button on my Harmony remote, and I'd hit lights, and it would just dim down over like 20 seconds. And it was just a cool effect. And people would come over and go, they would immediately look up and go, dude, this is like legit, you know? And it was just something simple like that. And so Jonathan is back. Sorry about that. Ryan ended the entire broadcast. He thought he was leaving by himself. So Jonathan, I'm going to let you share again what you did in your home theater in regards to lighting. And we'll just have this conversation again.
Sure. So in these JBL CBT 70J1s are RGB 50/50 strips, and they're just like red, green, blue strips. They can change any color between those. They're not very expensive on Amazon, maybe $15 or something. And you can let your home controller of choice, Amazon's version or Google's version, control them. So you just say, change the color to whatever you want and turn them on and off. And I leave them on for about 5% on red during a movie, and it's not enough light overthrow to show up on the screen with my Epson anyway. In the previous conversation, we were talking about how they might show up on some of these more expensive projectors, but I'm okay with it right now.
Yeah. Some people take lights to the extreme and they don't want any lights. Like, I really think that Nigel was prepared. If anybody's teeth glowed in the dark, he would put some electrical tape on your teeth to prevent.
Oh, probably.
I mean, he was that serious in that theater at Cedia. So Let's see. Oh, appreciate it. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the link to the new stream. I posted it on the community tab as well. So hopefully folks will, and they should get a notification as well. So lighting is a big thing. And so, you know, I've been in theaters that literally had lights on while you're watching a movie, like full on, like some crazy multicolored lights. I'm thinking of the folks at the Chicago couple. That was cool. It's different. And it's not for everybody, but that was the vibe that they wanted to create in their theater room. And so, and Ryan, similar to Jonathan, first time I visited yours, I was like, dude, this is super cool. I'm like, I didn't know Martin Logan sold LEDs on their on their electrostats. And what did you do to your?
Mine are just the $5 Walmart Monster Tech LED light strips, and then they're all plugged into. I went super cheap. They're all plugged into Wi-Fi adapters that connect into. They're normally plugged into like Alexa or Google Home, but then I use Homebridge to bring everything into HomeKit. So somebody was saying, I wish HomeKit did it. Well, I think it's Sigmund Judge. So one thing you can do is if it's a non-HomeKit compliant device, right, you can use a device called Homebridge, and you can put it on a Raspberry Pi, or even Homebridge or Hoobs has their own release version of this, and you can bring non-compliant devices into HomeKit.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely possible if another device outside of HomeKit supports it. So if it's some functionality that you want, it's definitely possible. You just have to create a kludge to get around it.
A kludge?
A kludge, a workaround.
Oh, I'm like, dude, I'm learning all kinds of vocabulary tonight. This is a sweet podcast, man. A kludge. I have to write that down. So to me, lighting is cool because you can set the vibe. Like I enjoy LED lighting, but I don't really necessarily want it on while I'm watching a movie. But while guests are coming in, we're getting settled and we got the popcorn and all this stuff and some snacks and drinks, or I really, really enjoy having mood lighting. Let's just call it that. When you're listening to music, I mean, that's a cool vibe when you've got just some cool ambiance going on as far as the, your LED lights. Some of you guys have put an LED strip around your projection screen like I did. Some of you put them by your speakers. So I actually have some LED strip. That's another thing that I'll do. I have one big bright LED strip at the bottom in front of my speakers. So what's kind of cool is I can use that to reveal my speakers, kind of like they do in the IMAX demos when you used to go to the IMAX cinema and they play a demo and then they shut the lights off and you see the speakers behind it. So I can do that with mine, but I can also lift up my screen because it's on gas shocks, and I'll just turn that blue LED light on so it illuminates my front wall of speakers, my left, center, and right. And actually, I will pull up a picture for show and tell. How about that? But the cool thing is that, it just kind of sets the vibe. And so I like LED lighting. I'm just not a huge fan of it, when I'm watching a movie. But like Jonathan does, I never found it distracting because he only puts it up 5%. So it can work even when you're watching a movie. I just wouldn't recommend like having them full on. Let me show this right here. So you can see here. So I've got, my speakers are lit up just by that one LED strip from the bottom. So it just creates this cool little vibe. Now, eventually I'd love to replace that blue LED strip with some RGB lighting. And it's hard to see in this picture, but there are several acoustic panels behind those speakers. And my thought is maybe I could even kind of take some, maybe like the Govee lights and go around the edges of those. And that would kind of let those pop a little bit. And they could even be a different color than the blue that's up front. So there's a lot of things that you can do with LED lighting and lighting in general.
So you know how you have those 212 HTRs and they have those side vents? If I had ever, they were on the menu for me too, is something I was considering. If I had gotten those, I was thinking about putting red LEDs inside there, so those slot vents would light up red. That could be a pretty cool effect.
Oh, okay. So let me see if I can zoom in. Tell me if it zooms in when I do this.
It does.
Cool. So what Jonathan's talking about is right here. You can see in the front, there are these vents to the left and right of the woofers, and to the left and right of the coaxial driver in the middle, where that big horn is. So you're talking about like removing woofers, installing red LED lights inside it. Oh,
Sure.
that would be interesting, man.
Sure, they got that adhesive backing. You could just stick it on the back of the cabinet and then make sure it's
Yeah.
not invisible view, so you don't see the LED strip. You just want the light coming out of that. But that'd be
Right.
really cool, and it's not going to
You
affect
probably
the
had to
sound
put
at
it.
all.
Yeah, you'd have to put it kind of inside, like
Mhm.
not
Not directly on the far
in-
end. Yep, yep.
not in line with the slots. Interesting.
Exactly.
Hey,
It could be really cool.
man. Yeah.
And then another
Right.
cool idea, like your picture here, it reminds me, Tony, SOWK on the forums, one of his intros to his theater is that he has a picture like that, and he just plays that picture as part of his like slide before he goes in the movie. And it's such a good quality picture, and it's aligned so perfectly. I don't know if he did it for you, but
yes,
it looks
he did.
like
Yeah, I thought he
it like
illuminated.
threw me off for a second. I was like, "What in the world? That looks like what happened here right now?" And
Yes.
you know, that's just
So he actually had this display like on his screen, and so you're thinking, "Oh, I'm seeing that behind there," because his screen is pretty far away from you. I mean, it's probably what 10 or 15 feet, maybe more than that.
I think it's ridiculous that you consider 10 feet far away.
Dude, I'm 9 feet from.
I know.
That's great. But I'm just saying, like, no, I'm thinking it's further than mine because I'm 9 feet, and I bet his is like at least 15 feet away.
Yeah, he sits pretty far back.
Yeah. So, but he's got a beautiful setup. So I think lighting can be a great thing. And so there's some that you can buy like Philips Hue, and they connect with your phone on your, so
it can get expensive really fast though. Sure. Depending on the route that you go. So
okay.
It's very.
And this hobby get expensive too?
Well, yes, but when you start getting into the extras and stuff, it really starts adding up because you're thinking, oh, lighting's not going to be that much more, man. Yeah. Philips Hue, I mean, you're talking if you were to do like all of my speakers with Philips Hue, it'd be over $1,000 for my bass player.
So check this out. Nick, what is up, brother? So Nick is with Audio Device. Those folks over there, man, we had a chance to hang out with them at Audio Device Live. Super, super great guys. He says, hey, Youth Man, Nick from Audio Device here. One thing that many people miss is cooling for theater rooms. If they don't
That's a really good point.
A mini split, a Nest thermostat, and an extra sensor are great additions. My room can get super hot when I have 6 people in there, 8 people in there. It can get toasty real quick. Now, moving my projector outside the room, that was great because that removed some of that heat. But I would love to do something like a mini split or some way of. I even thought about buying literally an extra unit for the theater room and then the bedroom that's right next to the theater room, because both of those rooms, for whatever reason, just the way they designed my house, it gets very warm. So definitely, I think cooling is something as well.
Jonathan, you don't really have much of an issue. I don't have an issue, but we're in basements.
Right. And a lot of airspace down here. So it hasn't really been an issue. Yeah.
So my room's kind of small. So you get 6 bodies in there, especially if they're dudes, and it gets funky. And they start sweating. And it's like the longer we're in there, the more we start sweating, man. So, but appreciate that, Nick. That's a great.
That is a really good point.
Yeah. So what else? Continue to let us know in the chat what you've done in your home theater. I know there's some folks that were mentioning D-Box, a couple of these guys.
Well, with D-Box, let's just talk about transducers and any type of other shaker or anything like that.
Sure. So for the folks that don't know what D-Box is, kind of explain that.
So D-Box it combines motion, like the feeling of motion, in 6 degrees of freedom and shake. So it does a bunch of different things. But what I mean by 6 degrees of freedom is it moves on multiple axes as long as you have enough of these effectively pistons that can move the corners of the seat up and down. So you've got setups with 2, 3, and then 4. So D-Box is able to, they've programmed movies and they actually get them ahead of the release schedule because I was talking to them at Cedia. So they have them pre-programmed before the movies actually release. And then they will move your seats in accordance with whatever is going on in the movie. And that includes moving and shake. So they do a combination of both. And I was asking him, well, how do you start them on time? And they were saying that it has a microphone and it listens for audio cues, and that's how it starts the sequence. It listens for an audio cue in the playback, and that's when it knows to start the sequence. So
Yeah.
it's definitely not a gimmick. I mean, it is the end all be all as far as transducer and that line of thinking. I mean, there's a reason it's so expensive. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it. There's a lot of work hours and man hours that go into it, because they design these for every movie that comes out. And you can also do them. They have a live mode where it can do things like the shake and stuff based on what it hears. I haven't experienced that, but D-Box is definitely the next evolution after like a bass shaker or a Croson or something like that. So
Jonathan, have you been to Tony's home?
Not when he had D-Box. I have
Okay.
been there, but it was
Okay.
prior to his deployment.
So I've been to his home twice, and originally I didn't know what to expect from D-Box, you know, because like you, I'm thinking, like you mentioned in the chat, is this gimmicky, and you just don't know till you experience it. And I still remember going back to, is it Broken or Unbroken? I think it's Unbroken, the plane scene. Is that right?
With the 50 cal? Yeah.
Where they open up the bay doors and it gets locked. Okay.
That's right.
So we're watching Unbroken, and there's a scene in there where the plane starts to dive. And it goes, woo. And when it starts to dive, my seat started leaning forward. I'm like, it was cool. It didn't take me out of the movie. It actually propelled me into the movie. It sucked me into the movie. And I felt more like this is a legit experience.
You have to do it in a very subtle way. If you do it too over the top, it can be jarring. But if you do it very subtly, like D-Box does, I think it's immersion increasing. And one of the cool things that I was talking about them with is they are currently testing with Valencia.
Yeah.
So it's coming, hopefully, soon.
Yeah.
And then I'm working on becoming a D-Box dealer. So there's
cool.
I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of cool things about it. They keep moving the technology forward, and they're trying to branch out, especially in the home theater space or the residential home theater space. I think it's really cool. But
so I ran
aside from D-Box, go ahead.
I was going to say, I ran into the guys at D-Box, and they mentioned that they were working with Valencia. They're basically just testing their chairs to make sure that they can sustain the, you know, the rigor. What do you say?
I don't think they'll have any problem. I mean, it's all metal frame. I don't think they'll have any issue.
But they just got to test it to make sure it's going to hold up.
Yeah, the only issue you have with seats like that is you have to have, I think they said 5 centimeters of separation between each seat. So you have to have, like in mine, I would have to have armrests added to the ones. So there will be some changes, because you can't really do it on when they're linked together.
They can't be locked together. That I never thought of that.
It doesn't work, unfortunately.
With
what's that, Jonathan?
Oh, one of the comments says D-Box doesn't work with beer.
That could be rough. But aside from D-Box, what about like shakers and Crosons? And
so I have a funny story about the D-Box, but it's not. It was MX4D. What one of the theaters around here, B&B Theaters, uses MX4D, and they had some sort of like, they have the seats that move all the 6 axes and the tactile transducers and the jets of air and all that kind of stuff, right? But there was also some sort of little whip that was that was between your legs, right? And I was wearing pants, and I think mine was broken off because I didn't even feel it.
What are you talking about?
And my 13-year-old daughter went with me to the movie theater. We watched Thor, God of Thunder, or whatever it was. Anyway, Love and Thunder. Anyway, that whip between, she was wearing shorts, and that whip was like whipping her legs left and right, and she was like squealing and moving her legs to the side. And like, what is wrong with this chair?
That would be jarring.
What is the purpose of that?
I don't know. I don't know what it was doing.
BDSM in a movie theater.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
that's weird. Yeah.
So you were saying take it out of a movie. That was taking you out of a movie.
Okay.
That would be rough.
And I think with anything, and that's one thing I really appreciate about the guys in Wisconsin, Illinois, the folks in Kansas City, is that you take extra care into dialing your systems in to the extent that whatever you do, it doesn't detract you from what you're experiencing on screen. That the element, now some people do, but for the most part, this is, it did get weird real quick. However, but it's one of those things. You can overdo anything. You can overdo subwoofers. You can overdo lighting. You can overdo tactile transducers. You can overdo. It's finding that balance to where it adds immersiveness and it brings you into the story of the movie or the music if you're listening to music, without kind of removing you, and you're looking back going, oh, that was cool. Because kind of as soon as you take your eyes off the screen and your attention's on a speaker or a subwoofer. And so I'll just share my experience. So I've experienced some tactile transducers. Jonathan's got them in his. I've experienced the Boss, the Hover Boss, and the Hover Easy. And my preference, I don't like any one of those three. And the biggest reason is because my brain always tells me I'm sitting on an inner tube and I'm just kind of, bouncing and shaking. And so for me, when I'm watching, we're watching Fury, and the tank, fires off this massive cannon. And when the Hover Easy or the Hover Boss or the Boss platform, when it fires, it's real weird for me. I mean, yes, it's like jarring. You're like, whoa, that was crazy cool. But my brain knows that it's coming from the bottom of the chair. And so to me, it removes me from that. I've heard a bunch of different and felt and experienced a bunch. So that for me is not great. But Jonathan, I think you shared with me that you might even consider adding that to your setup. Is that correct?
No, I tried it.
Somebody else? Okay.
I felt the same way as you, that it
Okay.
was kind of like floating marshmallow, old Cadillac feeling to
Yeah.
me. And it didn't work for me. I know people love it. I'm not going to disparage it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
but
And if you do,
it's not
that's
for me.
awesome. Right. So, but I think it's just one of those things where it's got to be to where it's subtle, to where you notice it, but it doesn't like take you out of that situation. So that's just my take on that. But
Right. I think all those transducers feel a little different. We did some experimenting in them at a Kansas City meet 10 years ago or something. And we had butt kickers and Clark synthesis, and we had the Aura ones from Parts Express.
Yep.
And they all feel a little different. And
Right.
and they all have a little bit different capabilities too.
Sure.
The Clark felt more like a speaker because it is an actual like magnet structure, motor structure. It's shaped like a disc. It actually is more like a speaker than the butt kicker. The butt kicker is like a piston that goes up and down. And an Aura shaker was kind of like a hybrid between the two. It was a little wider, and it didn't have like a steel slug in it, but it had some sort of mechanism that went up and down. So it was kind of a mix between the two. And they felt like they sound like the butt kicker is can be like a jackhammer. It can be good, but it can be way too strong too.
Yeah.
And the Clark synthesis is more like what I'm doing now with just the open air subwoofer type feel.
So this is kind of what you were talking about here, this Clark synthesis.
That's right. That's the one. We had one of those and a chair. We had the same chairs, actually.
You can kind of see like you said, that motor structure that's inside there.
Yeah, it's almost like a subwoofer driver. And we put one in each chair, and then we just rotated chairs and we played different clips and let everyone kind of try them. Yeah. And my favorite from that meet was probably the butt kicker. The Aura wasn't powerful enough. It's it needs to be on a real thin chair or a lightweight chair, I think.
Sure. And I mean, all right, so we're talking $67. So
right.
In a way, you probably are getting what you pay for in these. The Clark is a lot
they're
more
not
expensive.
as big.
Whoa, that one's $700.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. It's going to have more power, a little bit more of a Newton to it.
And then
the Clark felt really real, but one of my gripes about the Clark also was that it made sound. So if you had it turned up, it was actually kind of like
so you could hear it.
It had a frequency to it. It had a tone to it. It was making bass, but it wasn't a super clean bass like a subwoofer drive would be.
Well, the butt kickers can make sound. They can act as speakers as well.
They can kind of clack. I don't know if I've heard them make like tones. So much.
I've had them.
Yeah.
Do that. I have to run filter passes.
So there's a bunch of different types too, kind of depending on your budget and depending on how much. Like this one, where was it? The big one,
the LFE. Your
LFE.
This one here. Oh, that's the mini LFE.
No,
there it is.
That one's not good in my opinion.
That
mini one.
No, that's the concert. That's not even the big one.
The advances, as a consumer, the advances where
the
you want to start.
The advanced is probably the best.
There's a mini.
The LFE is the huge.
There it is.
There it is.
It'll rip your face off, and like your chairs, you'll have to buy new chairs every year.
It is enormous. Like, do you still have yours, Jonathan?
I do. I can go get it. Stand by.
Oh, cool. We're going to do some more show and tell to the basement
to get it, but it is enormous, and it can take up to 700 watts.
Wow.
I mean, if you turn that thing up and let it go, it would rip your chair apart.
Yeah. So Franklin says you're overdriving them if they're making sound.
They're turned way, way down.
Home Theater Gamer, good to see you, buddy. Brad was a super huge help at Cedia, man. He did all my filming. So throw a big shout out to Home Theater Gamer. Appreciate you. And go check out his channel because he did some behind the scenes vlog kind of stuff from Cedia. So Jonathan, let's see this big old butt kicker. Man, it's as big as your head, bro. That's a big maybe not quite.
It weighs a lot.
That's big.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think?
How does that even fit underneath your chair?
I think it's more than 10 pounds.
So it has 4 mount holes, right? And you just mount it to your frame.
I don't think I can.
One of our guys on our Kansas City group, Randy Bessinger, has several of these mounted to his floor joists.
Okay.
His theater room is on a suspended wooden floor.
Sure.
And he put these on the floor itself, and the whole room shakes for it. I mean, like these are. I'm not kidding you. I mean, that Interstellar clip with that is something serious.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining a new home inspector coming over and be like, "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't know that I couldn't mount transducers directly to the joists of my upper floors."
Yeah.
So definitely let me know in the chat if you guys have some kind of tactile transducers. I'd just be curious to see how many of you are using butt kickers or Aura. Is it Aura?
Aura, I think.
Aura, Clark Synthesis. There's definitely some different flavors, different brands, different budgets, and different capacity.
There's Earthquake and there's Krausen. Krausen's really popular one.
Yeah.
So that's expensive.
Yeah.
Krausen,
$500 a pop or something, but they're supposed to be about the best from what people say. I don't have very much. I've experienced it one time.
Yeah.
I guess twice because SOWK has it and Carp has it, so twice.
Correct.
I think the best is a near field.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking on that, I'm gonna throw this up on the screen while you talk about it, but what is near field?
Jonathan?
Yeah, I'll explain it. So is he showing Krausen or what are you showing here?
I'm just showing it like as you were talking.
So it's probably worth talking about these because these are little electromagnetic devices. They're like little hockey puck size devices. And they go in place of a foot on a seat. Usually you have 3 feet and one of those is the Krausen. Looks like they got 4 in that picture, but
right on the back feet, it looks like.
But they move in perfect harmony to the frequency, right? Because they're very strong little devices and they just go up and down. They make a vertical motion.
Gotcha.
And it's very subtle in my opinion. I think it's far more subtle than some of these other devices we've been talking about.
Definitely not cheap.
People say that they're very natural feeling and there's a lot of praise for these.
Yeah. So that's super cool. So again, that's just kind of on the high end. So if you're looking for something like that, you can definitely check out.
You can
Krausen.
Yeah, you can see in that picture how they have 3 feet or 2 feet. And so one of those goes underneath your chair leg and the other 3 get those rubber. They're probably a low durometer rubber, which is basically a very squishy rubber.
Yeah, so they'll kind of move on their own. I got you. As this is moving up and down.
Yeah, they've gone up in price. Last I knew, those were 500 piece. So just like everything else,
pretty much everything in life, man. So okay, so let's move on to let me remove this. So you had mentioned near field. So what is near field for those that have never heard of that?
So in that context, we're talking about having a subwoofer driver directly behind your chair with the diameter of the cone being the max distance that you'd want.
Well, Jonathan, the easiest thing would be to turn your chair so they can
move your head, buddy. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, now we're talking.
There you go.
So there are 3 subwoofers, 18-inch subwoofers, one for each of. He's got 3 chairs, and then one of them doesn't have it. But notice how close they are. They're
as close as I can do it and still recline. Right.
So explain that again as far as like where they should be placed in reference to how big your driver is.
So there's a tremendous difference, truly a tremendous difference if you can get those up close. And I hear people say, I got near field subs, they're 3 feet away.
Like, that ain't near field.
That's not doing anything like a near field does. Yeah. If you're within the driver's diameter between that subwoofer driver cone and your back or your butt or wherever it's located, you're going to feel so much more. Yeah. It's like a I don't even know how to describe it, but it's just an incredible amount more feel, and it's very low. So if you play like a low wobble or a low frequency, say you have a 10 hertz tone in your source media, you'll feel that wobble. You'll feel that cone moving, the pressure of the pressure that it generates. You'll feel against your back, and you will never feel that if it's 2 or 3 feet away or 10 feet away, unless you have so many sealed drivers.
The important thing though is that it feels incredibly natural, which is the most important thing among all of these. Is that bass shakers are good, auras are good, Krosens are good, but when you put a sub that close to you and it's creating these frequencies and these pressurizations, it doesn't feel unnatural at all. It feels like it's supposed to be there,
Yeah.
especially when it's properly integrated. So I think it's the most immersion increasing part of on any of these transducers, actuators, any of that. I
Yeah.
think the near fields are definitely the most critical as far as gaining that.
Yeah.
They also take up the most space, and they can be the most troublesome, I would say, to get into your environment because they're large. They require amplification. They require extra
Stage,
channels and all of that. So
one thing I really appreciate about your setup, Jonathan, is you have the ability, and maybe you can explain how you set this up, but you have the ability to easily select like presets of, let's just say, a low, a medium, a high, and throw you out of the seat. Like I saw somebody over here said they wanted, right here. I want something that'll flip me out of the chair. So you got that mode on yours. How'd you set that up?
So I have a mini DSP, and I just basically used the remote that has settings 1 through 4, preset 1 through 4, and I just increased 2 dB for each of the presets. So
Gotcha.
level 1 is how I like it. It's kind of a low setting compared to what some people just want to feel. And then 2 dB more is 2, and 2 dB more than that is 3, and so on. It lets you go to crazy. It's just for someone to experience
Sure.
it, and then you can
That's
right
fun.
back it off again.
Yeah. So that's a super cool way to use the mini DSP to be able to change those. And like I said, it's just got a little remote. So when we were at your home during M-Wave, we had some guests over there, and you were able to show them like, okay, this is 1. Then you'd select 2, and then 3, and you kind of let us kind of see what each one. And I agree. I think I like number 2. Definitely when you get above 2, it's like, this is insane. It's cool, like for party, trick kind of thing, but probably a sustained watching. Like if I was watching Fury, dude, I'd be like tore up from the floor up kind of thing after that, but it's kind of cool to be able to easily switch back and forth to kind of go, okay, I like this. And maybe there's certain times that certain movies, maybe you wanted to do a higher one than 1. It'd be easy to do that. So for those of you guys thinking about something like that, that mini DSP might be a great way to give you that flexibility. You're correct, Michael. Jonathan Sub. Okay, you say Sub. He has
8.
Yeah.
But I got to step away for a minute. I'll be right back.
So there's
I got
8.
someone at the door.
Yeah, he's making a deal, man. He's selling some graphics cards.
I thought he was selling his chairs that his wife was making him get rid of.
So you can see up front, he actually has 5 subwoofers, 18-inch, and they're kind of curved, and he did that on purpose. When he measured, he actually found that they measured better in a curve than just a straight line. And then he has 3 18-inch, one behind 3 of those seats, and those are near field. So absolutely, his setup is crazy. It can be jarring, but he also has it to where it feels very, very natural. Like you're not thinking this is too much bass. Some people look at that and they go, why would anybody need 8 subwoofers in a home theater? That doesn't make sense. It does make sense because no matter what content he plays, you're never going to hear distortion because these things are barely having to work because they're all sharing the load of that, the LFE and that scene on a movie. So we're watching Interstellar, dude. I was literally upstairs getting a snack. He was giving demos downstairs. And when it took off, I was like, you got to be kidding me. What is going? I got to go check this out because I'm upstairs and stuff is moving. So I go downstairs. I'm like, good golly. And it's crazy. But he's just got it dialed in really, really well for both music and movies. And so it's all about calibration, 100%. So what else would you say? So we got lighting, we've got tactile transducers, we've got near field subwoofers. What are some other things, Ryan, that you can do in your home theater, kind of take it to that next level?
What about artwork or like posters or anything that, you really like that you're surrounding yourself to create, or really anything that makes it feel like a theater? I mean, I see people put in popcorn machines, memorabilia, action figures, posters, all that kind of stuff. And I think anything that people can do in that way to make it theirs, but also make it feel like a cinema or however they want to make it feel when they go watch a movie is really important. People always try and make and think about I think a lot of times that their home theater is only a home theater, but they forget that it should be part of an extension of their house.
Yeah, I got you.
And I think that's really important, especially for creating a space that makes you feel like you're stepping into movie time, or
Yeah.
it's time to, go down a cinematic adventure or cinematic path. And that's something that I think is really important. Oh, dating sites back. Let me get rid of them.
Oh, is it? Oh, fun.
Yep, they're gone.
Cool.
But I think that's a big one. We see that a lot when you were doing home theater tours. There was a couple of them with action figures and posters, and
Yeah.
it's cool to see the passion, and then people incorporate those into their theater rooms.
There's a gentleman by the name of Charles Keene. He's in North Florida, and he had some DIY speakers and subwoofers and 24-inch. He even made it was a JL. I think it was like the Gotham clone. I mean, gorgeous. I mean, the dude is just incredibly talented, but he made some of those acoustic panels that look like artwork. You print up canvas, movie posters, and so that's the fabric. But then he took it a step further, and on the sides of it, he had routed the. I'll tell you what. Let me see. I will find it on my channel because I want you to be able to see this. This is like the coolest thing to me. But he routed the name of that movie poster. So if it was, Avengers, then they would have Avengers logo on there. Or if it was Iron Man, then he have Iron Man on there. Let me find, because that was a super, super cool home theater. It's right up here. It's actually newer than that. Dude, when you have 595 videos, it gets hard to find them. But they are in here somewhere. It's further down. I was going to show you while I'm doing that. I'm not real good at multitasking, but I'll show you this. So probably one thing too is even like your organization of your stuff and where you're going to put your equipment. So this is not a good example of what to do with your setup. So having some kind of cabinet organization for your stuff. This is actually my home theater when we were building it 15 years ago. I didn't even have a front wall. So it was like everything was just on the floor. That was my big screen TV. I think it was 19 inches, man. That was huge. So let me pull this up.
Welcome back, Jonathan.
Sorry about that disruption. Did you hear the dog barking?
I did. I heard him eating your guest.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He wasn't playing. And we're getting some ASMR from Jonathan, his breathing.
I'll back up the mic. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Dating site back again. No way.
Dude, I don't know why I can't find. Every time you see something or you're looking for something, you can't find it.
So Jonathan, right now we're talking about
like decor and
artwork, movie posters and action figures and popcorn machines and anything that you put in your space to make it feel an increase of immersion for you when you feel like you're going to watch a movie, right? You make it your space.
I found it.
Did you guys talk about those cool textless movie posters on a TV that some people are doing?
So chat's talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've seen a few implementations of that.
So let me show you this. I'll just kind of let it play. Yeah. All right. So let me get rid of the little ad here. So you'll see here, look at those movie posters on the wall. There's near field, cool little artwork. This was handmade. But then look right here. Check those out. I think that's phenomenal.
Does that do it yourself, or did he get those purchased somewhere?
No, he made those.
Yeah, that side.
There's that awesome. Custom. That's crazy, dude. But yeah, so he made those. His name is Charles Keene. Incredibly talented. This was a 24-inch stereo integrity in the back of his car, dude. It's crazy. Watch this real quick. He'll lift it up. All stealth. That's insane. 24 inches. So, but this home theater featured stereo integrity. But it was
wow, it's cut out on the bottom.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
like
straight
a spare tire.
Straight up. Everybody's like, that's stupid. That thing's not gonna last. This is his daily driver all day, every day. And even the day that he left from there, it was raining. He's like, I drive it in the rain all the time. They sealed this thing, waterproofed it and all that. But that home theater is cool. It's called Warning. This home theater could be hazardous to your health. Stereo integrity HS24. So if you look up that video, it's insane. But Charles,
we should get Sheldon a sign that says that.
Oh, there you go. For real.
So wait a minute. Does it have a cover on that net normally?
It doesn't. No, it
No.
does not.
It's just
no.
out in the rain like that?
And so that's what they call an infinite baffle. And I'm gonna back up here so you can actually see these here. This is just so cool, man.
Is that a velvet wall or is it just black paint?
I think it's black. I don't think he has any velvet in his room, but these posters, man, they look gorgeous. And he made this wooden frame around the outside. And if I can get to it, you'll be able to see right up here. I have some B-roll. So he's talking about the print. You just download your movie poster. You can send that off to print. This is kind of the inside, what it looks like, and the backside. So it's just a frame that you make out of wood. And then he did something just really different that I've never seen anybody do. And that is use a CNC machine to carve out the logos, Spider-Man, Avengers, Batman. And then you're seeing the raw wood underneath that. And then the outside is just painted black. But I just thought that was so creative. And when you walk in, you're like, again, it just creates that vibe. Oh yeah, that was my software didn't render that clip very well. It's like click here to analyze. But I just thought that was
really cool.
Super cool. Yeah. So I told
now, did
Charles,
he get those 3D printed from a place like Spoonflower or like an online place, or where did he? I mean, where did he get the color print, the cloth?
Oh, so yeah, he sent me a link to it. I'd have to find out, but basically, there's a lot of places online. You just look up movie posters, and it's just high resolution artwork. And so you remove that. So you just upload your artwork to them, and then they print it on fabric and send you the fabric, and then you make your own DIY, panels. So, but that definitely looks really, really cool. So super cool. So we got tactile transducers. We've got lighting. We've got decor, whether it's your, even like in Tony's room, you go down in his basement, and before we even get to the room, he's got like this pre-room, like a hangout room. And it's got video games. It's got, there's a snack machine. There's got the movie poster, the artwork that you were talking about. And actually, while you are doing that, I'll show you another example of what you were talking about, Jonathan. And that's the digital movie posters. And I think that is super incredible. A way to definitely kind of set your, kind of set the mood as you're coming into your theater. I couldn't see this inside a movie theater, but I definitely could see that being maybe outside, like kind of like your entrance, right?
Mm-hmm. For me, though, I feel like I wouldn't pay enough attention to that to warrant me putting it in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd forget to change it, and it just doesn't help me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea.
Yeah. So I'll find it in this video, and then I'll share it.
Well, there's thousands of those images that are like textless movie posters where somebody's edited out the text at the bottom.
Gotcha.
And they're real high res, and it looks super good on those TVs. I've seen a couple rooms that did it, and I really like the aspect of it. I'm kind of like Ryan. I'm not sure where I'd put it in here, but it's cool if you can have a space for it.
It's cool, but I can't really. I mean, maybe if it was just on constant rotation outside, just to have a showcase as like the theaters behind here. But
so what Michael did in his setup, so he's got a really crazy, just an incredible setup. This is one of the highest viewed videos on my channel for home theater tours, at least the fastest growing one. But what he did is he's got 2 TVs vertical, and then he uses some software with a computer, but he also ties it in with this kaleidoscope. So so it actually will show you like what movie's playing in the theater room, which, like I said, it's kind of cool, but I mean, you don't really see it, but it just looks kind of nice. But you can have, like you said, you can have it set up to where it's just doing almost like a slideshow of different movies. I think to me, I would enjoy that more than hey, this is what we're going to see tonight in the theater room. But that's just me. So, but I thought it was really cool. So
any
what else?
others, Jonathan or Michael? Yeah. Michael, you give us something you think you can think of. I haven't heard anything come from you.
That's because I'm multitasking.
Oh,
I'm finding videos. I'm finding links and stuff on Amazon and websites. All right. So to me, well, I was the first one that mentioned the lighting. Like in my case, I did a little Lutron Maestro. Take your home theater to the next level. I mean, all right. So, and this is kind of simple. I say simple. It's something that until I did it, I had never seen anybody else do it. And so when you got a big, massive screen, mine's 150-inch diagonal. I wanted easy access behind my screen. I wanted to be able to see my speakers and showcase my speakers. So I as I shared earlier, I added lighting to it. But a friend of mine, he suggested, well, the easiest way for us to do that is to add gas shocks to the frame of the screen. And he literally, no joke, he literally added a hood latch underneath, and that's what secures it to the frame, the wooden frame. And so you reach under, you grab the hood latch, you pull it to the side, it unlocks it, and then I can lift my screen up. So to me, being able to see behind, because I'm a visual person, I like seeing speakers, I like seeing subwoofers. When you go into somebody's theater room and it's just completely, everything's concealed, that's cool. But I want to see them, man. I want to see what your subwoofers look like. I want to see what the speakers or your LCR are. So to me, I think one thing that took mine to a new level was when I have a guest in there and I tell them what I've got in the theater room, and I'm like, oh, hang on a second. And I lift up the screen and I tell her to turn on my lights behind the screen, and they light up and they're like, what? So it's cool seeing people's face, when you kind of reveal, you lift up this massive screen and it's just super, super easy to open up. So to me, that was one of the things that took my personal theater room to another level, to be able to kind of showcase, what's going on behind the screen and what sound is coming from.
That's a good one. I can't do that. I mean, I'm lazy and all my speakers are in my room.
Yeah.
Velvet, I think, is another really big one.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, Velvet, I feel like, takes everything to the next level video wise. I mean, if you guys look back behind me, the black hole isn't actually like paint or anything. That's all the Velvet. So that's not edited or anything like that. That's the Velvet sucking up all the light, and you can't see any definition in any of that. And that is probably the number one thing, if I were to build another room, that I would do immediately. Like it was that much of an immersion increase that I wouldn't even question it. And everybody that sees it, it becomes a really high priority for their space. Jonathan, maybe one day we'll do it, but
so one thing I didn't realize, like, you think of, and somebody mentioned it here, paint color. Nick mentioned paint color to finish, huge, performance.
Yeah.
But man, there's really even a flat black or deep black, it's still going to reflect some light. And when I've experienced some of these guys' homes like yourself, one gentleman had his entire room blacked out. I mean, everything had velvet on. It was hilarious. And he's a hoot, man. That was a funny interview.
Like Nigel's. Nigel was all velvet.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the dude on the home theater tour. He had long black hair, curly
thing. Yeah.
Dude, he was hilarious. I love him. He was a musician. But the interesting thing is, and that I'm learning from guys like Nigel and others that have done the black velvet, it is anytime that you have light reflecting off your screen onto, say, a ceiling, some of that light's going to come back on your screen. And so it's going to hinder your contrast levels, my understanding, and just the overall picture quality. So the darker you can get your room and the less reflections you can have coming back onto your screen, the more vibrant and beautiful and incredible your image is going to be. And so those of you that can do that, and some people don't want to darken their whole room, so maybe they just darken like the first 6 feet of their room.
Mine comes down about 8 feet, and I had black trim at the bottom, and I have a black ceiling. but when you put it next to the velvet, it looks gray. It's not, your perceived notion of what black is changes when you put it up against an actual like black velvet, which triple black, there are different levels. And Nigel actually did a big comparison of them on ABS.
Cool.
And when you put them up against one another, even the different velvets, you can start to see, well, this one isn't necessarily black.
Weber fan, I'm not sure that'll work, brother.
Probably not advisable.
Dark. Black
it would work.
Hey, paint your eyes. Yeah, man, that's gonna hurt.
Michael, pull up that video I put in our private chat. That's a great one to show how black levels affect contrast.
Okay, so this is on Facebook. All right,
how black walls.
All right, I'm gonna pause. Let's do present, screen, share, Chrome, watch Facebook. Bam, man, I'm getting good at this. All right, so does that show? All right, let's see if I can make that full screen. That make it bigger on your end? Yep. All right, so let's see. So I'm gonna back up. So give us the context. Where is this? Do we know, or just it was somebody's home?
Yeah, this is somebody's home. I guess on Facebook they posted. I thought it was a great video. It shows what a white ceiling and a white wall does, and they bring curtains back from the front, and they show the contrast on the screen change. Okay. So take a look at that. This is called intrascene contrast.
All right, so we have like white ceiling. Okay, and so we can see the squares are kind of grayish.
Then Vanna White's going to just pull this curtain back, and you're going to watch those squares blacken up.
Whoa. Ain't that crazy, guys? So here's the interesting thing. We saw this physically. It wasn't that extreme. We saw this at M-Wave because when Chris Seymour added just masking on the top and bottom of the image, we saw stuff like that happen. We're like, what just happened?
Well, I think this is a little different in that this is actually stopping the reflections from coming back onto the screen.
Because
the white light is reflecting off of the white paint.
So here's is perceived contrast. This is physical. Okay, this is like a washout. I got you.
Yeah, you got all that reflected light off those sidewalls bouncing back to the screen and killing your black levels.
Look, so we're going from here where they're really gray. And of course, I mean, there could be a little bit of that in the camera because now the camera is trying to expose for all of this. But I think that it's because you can see it changes from like a gray here and it's all back. But then when the camera moves to here, then it all of a sudden gets really dark. So that's more than likely, that's a camera auto exposing for what it's seeing.
That's a good point.
But I think that there probably still is some valid, you know what I'm saying? So that might be a little exaggerated, but still just a great illustration of what black velvet can do in a room.
I mean, I've experienced it firsthand in 2 different rooms, right? Because in both my rooms, I started with white walls, and then in both my rooms, I just kept I painted the sidewalls, and then I painted the back wall, and I went to a black ceiling, and every one of those is a little bit of an improvement because you have less light reflecting on the ceiling. If you go to velvet, it'll be one step further, you know, which many people can attest to have done it.
Yeah. Super cool stuff, man. So we're getting close to the hour, so I'm going to jump into some questions unless there's anything else that you guys can think of to take your theater to the next level.
I think we covered a lot of it. Cool. There's other stuff, but I think that's a good point for an hour.
We've got 7 questions. We're going to rapid fire through these. Going to try to keep these live streams to about an hour, just to be respectful of you guys' time and those in the chat. I know we could seriously do this all day, but I realize you guys got families. Ryan's got young kids, and Jonathan needs another massage from all them Subwoofers. I'm going to get him back to business there. So Weber fan, how do I bridge the gap between a home theater and a sports cave at home when I want to do Super Bowl party, a big fight night, or any other huge event? Lights have to be on, but I want a huge screen. Loud? Okay. Here's my thought. One of the things that is really changing, I think, the game in multi-purpose rooms are the ultra short throw projectors. I find them really intriguing paired with an ambient light rejection screen. What those are allowing people to do is to have lots of ambient light in a room, such as, you know, if you got a Super Bowl party, you don't want the room super dark. You want people to hang out and walk around and to be able to have that. So, and at least look into and consider maybe an ultra short throw. There's some great ones out there. Hisense makes a L9G that's phenomenal. It's beautiful. It's really, really bright. Pair that with an ambient light rejection screen. You could have the lights almost full on and it still look really, really good. And of course, the darker you get it, the better it'll be. I do prefer regular, like, I don't know if they're just long throw projectors or regular projectors. I like them better, but I know my projector, it's like $10,000. But if you crank up my lights, it looks like doo-doo. I mean, it doesn't look good at all because it gets really, really washed out. But it's not made to be in a room that's really got a lot of ambient light. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I feel the same way you do, Michael, that you're gonna be kind of doing the balance, right? Because if you turn the lights on the room, it's gonna wash out the screen. The black's gonna only be as black as what the ambient light is on the screen. So that's just what it is. Now you can get, when you're watching football or something that's got a bright field on a sunny day, you can turn the lights up half. I mean, a good compromise is your little auto dimming stuff you had. Or I got some just cheap switches that I can turn halfway down and it dims light half. That works good. I do that for my Super Bowl parties.
So it doesn't have to be all on or all off. And
well, and on that note, to try and dim the lights that are right next to the screen so they're not just dumping light onto the screen, and have lights that are more on further away from the screen to reduce that ambient light effect. That's something definitely to consider.
And I've seen people even do stuff like a little drop down. So you see that for these can lights. I've seen some people take like a little kind of half wrap of felt, and so they cover the side that faces the screen, and it's not really that objectionable as far as cosmetic because it's just a little small thing, but it keeps light from shining directly on the screen.
Who did that? Grant did that in his home theater. He actually has that in front. It's like a little rounded, like you said, it's velvet, so it's rejecting that light, but the light that's coming down from the can light is shining into the room, but not on your screen. So super cool idea. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, Weber fan. The reality is if you turn the lights on, it's going to compromise your screen, but finding that balance. But if you don't have a projection, of course, if you have a TV, I mean, we saw some huge TVs, 220 inch, but you're going to pay $600,000 for that. And it's ridiculous. So
I think budget wise, you're right. Ultra short throw is probably going to be the way to go, but you're maximized like 120 inches, aren't you? Are there any that can go over there?
No, there are definitely some that are hitting 150 inch.
Oh, there you go.
So that's a cool thing. And again, they're just getting better and better. So I really think that they're kind of niche. I mean, let's be honest, they're not going to fit everybody's setup. You got to figure out, where do I put my center channel? You can put the center channel underneath it, but then does that now make your projector too high in the room? So you got to think through those things. And there's some other things as well, but it might be a good fit for especially like a sports kind of setup. So great question. Turn Up the Bass says, do you change the sound mode on your processor, Atmos, DTS, whatever, to match your source on per movie basis, or just set it and leave it? What do you guys do?
Mine does it automatically with a Denon, so I don't have to mess with it, but yes, it matches the source.
I leave it on DTS neural.
Okay.
Because I need that in order to utilize my entire channel count, because Atmos doesn't do it right now. Gotcha. The new update will. Something else to consider that I don't think a lot of people do is that different audio codecs actually have different video delays. So there is a possibility of having slightly different lip syncs between audio codecs. We were talking about that at CEDIA.
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't know if it's big enough to cause a problem, but
yeah.
I had never considered that.
Yeah, I don't ever set mine or change it. I just leave it.
Something to consider.
Yeah, set it and forget it. But again, try some different things. Try Atmos, try Aural 3D, try Neural X.
Jonathan's going to go back there and look at it now. After
So I have noticed that when Odyssey comes on and off, there's a delay that's added, because I can feel it with my transducers, which is one of the reasons I don't mess with Odyssey, because every time you calibrate it, it's going to have a little bit slightly different calibration, which means my transducer is always going to be messed up. So that's another incentive for me not to run Odyssey, because it's dialed in once and it's done. But I hadn't realized the codec, so now you got me thinking, darn it.
see how these tweaks, we're always searching, how do I take my system to the next level? Part of that is calibration. The more you can calibrate, the better your system is going to sound and look. Don Hensley, what's up, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Appreciate this $10 super chat. Thanks for all the great CD coverage. Yeah, on the channel, I think I filmed 12 videos in a period of 3 days. And again, super big thanks to Home Theater Gamer Brad I hired him to do all my filming. And so I was able to be free to interact with the different brands and to interview them and ask questions. And I could focus on that portion of the video rather than, oh man, is somebody going to knock over my camera? Or did I hit record? Or is the mic clipping? Those types of things. Or is my ISO set to the right setting and exposed properly? So Brad was a super help there. But I was able to do pretty much one video a day, starting with the day before. So we got there a day early, had a chance to check out the Trenov booth. They had Mad VR, Sonus Faber. Who else was there? Kaleidoscape, all in this one room. So it's an incredible room. I'm thinking it's probably $1 million room by the time you add in the cost
That's what we came up with.
The room itself. And so beautiful, incredible room. But I made a video on that. So I would have edited that the night before Cedia even started, and that would have went live the day one of Cedia. Then I had 2 videos go live on day 2 of Cedia from day 1. Then I had another video go live on day 2 so I just kept them rolling. I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep cranking these out. So definitely appreciate it, Don. I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. It was a lot of fun. I'm definitely going back to Cedia. And looking forward to some other physical trade shows. I'm glad they're back in business now. We've got M-Wave, we've got Audio Advice Live, definitely some great stuff out there. So we'll be bringing some more content.
So Crowson says they should all have auto mode, and I think he's talking about auto lip sync. Not all have auto lip sync, especially when you start getting into the higher tiers. Most of the higher tier ones do not have it. Trenov doesn't have it. It's in beta. Storm didn't have it for a long time. I don't even know. I don't think JBL Synthesis has it. I'm not sure about Anthem, but there's a lot of them that don't have that. I think Denon does, but there are many that don't. So it is just something to consider for those that don't, is that the audio codecs bring in different delays.
Yeah. So great question here. Eddie says, hey, Michael, I understand you have identical LCR. So my left, center, and right channel are identical speakers. But do you feel the need to boost the level of your center channel, or is the LCR level matched along with the other channels, of course? So I used to bump up my center channel when I had a horizontal center channel. I'd bump it up about 3 dB, sometimes 4, somewhere around there, because I felt that it just needed a little bit more oomph to it. It was almost like my left and right were overpowering it somehow, even when they were level matched. Once I went to identical LCRs, they're balanced. I don't have them any higher than the other. Part of that, I guess, is because they're in the same line or same level, left, center, right. It's identical height, the tweeters, the mid range. So that's hitting my ears at the same time. Odyssey is doing the, I guess not time alignment, but any delays, and because technically your left and right are going to be a tad bit farther than my center channel will be. Probably like 6 inches or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so I leave them, kind of flat. If you're set up, I always recommend level match your system, but then listen to it. And if you've got something in there in your setup that you're like, man, I need more, that's what your trim levels are for. That's preference. And I don't think that's wrong. So if you want to boost up your center channel a couple dB because it needs it, you just don't want it overpowering to where all you hear is the center channel. And then when something pans to a left speaker or a right speaker, you hear this drastic reduce in volume. That's going to pull you out of that immersiveness.
I think a big part of that too can be distortion and room acoustics. So sound acoustic treatments and stuff can vastly help with that. I think people have a tendency to, and I was in the same camp, have a tendency to boost the center channel when they're running into either one of those in order to overcome and increase clarity, because we as people perceive an increase in SPL as an increase in clarity. At least that's
I gotcha. So maybe treating your room, you may not have to boost up that center channel.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Good thought.
I'm with you, Michael, in that when I had disparate speakers, like an MTM as the center, I would always have to turn up the center channel, and I was still not very happy with the dialogue. When I went to all matching left, center, right, the last 3 iterations of my room, it fixed that. I don't have to boost that center channel anymore.
Yeah. LCR is the way to go, guys. If you could do it, man, I love it. Absolutely love it. Chadman PA says, how important are XLR outputs on an AVR if your cable runs are greater than 30 feet. So he's got some really long runs. Maybe his amp rack is in, or I guess maybe like a subwoofer is way away from the, yeah. So what AVR would you recommend in the $4,000 range? So he's got a pretty good budget there.
Excellent. 30-foot runs are getting, that's going to make some hum and noise in my experience with.
So that's
with
what he's
RCA.
asking. Like, I mean,
if you're running a cable by itself, I don't know that it would, but with all the crap that's in a wall and
ceiling and light fixtures and electrical,
I think you're in the point where you want XLR.
Yeah. So that's one of the benefits of XLR, because if you think about when you go into pro audio, like concerts, they're all using XLR when they're running, to the amps and the speakers, because they're running across the stage and they're just all over the place. And so you can get some interference in those. So I think definitely with long runs, XLR is definitely a way to go.
Make sure that you run it XLR the whole way, because running RCA to XLR will not do you any good.
Yeah. Now, one thing I've heard too is that not all XLR outputs are truly balanced. Now, that part I don't know, but I've heard some people say, well, only the left and right are truly balanced and the rest of them aren't.
That's the receiver dependent, but yes, that's true.
So that part I don't know how you determine that, if it's all internal, or if you just have to have somebody that knows how to measure that, or what.
You got to ask the question, because those companies don't necessarily advertise it on their quick spec sheets.
No, they're not going to tell you that.
It's buried deep in the forum questions.
Gotcha.
So, but as far as an AVR in the $4,000 range,
what would that be? I mean, are we talking Anthem?
Are you even at the Anthem level there?
I don't know. I don't know the MSRP.
You can get the 70, the Anthem 70 for that price. You can also get probably like a 6800 Denon and still have some pocket money left over. You can get a monoprice HTTP1. You can get how many speakers are you going to run first off, Chad, man? Because that's really where you should start your.
I think if you need an all-in-one, I don't know. The new 8500 HA is hard to beat. It's a little over that price range, but with the huge amps and stuff that it has, the multitude of channels, and not having to worry about anything, it's hard to beat.
And so a lot of times with your AVRs, they're AVRs, so audio video receiver, so it has an amplifier built in. A lot of those don't even have XLR outputs. Sometimes they'll have them for, maybe your subwoofer channels, but most of the time they don't have them for, until you get to I guess if you're getting in 4,000 range, they may have them in that. But you might even be looking at even some processors and then adding external amplification on that. So, but definitely if you're doing a really long run, that's one of the benefits of XLRs for sure. So definitely consider that. Stan Lewis says, may I ask what method does everyone use to daisy chain their subs? Have mine hooked up to a Y splitter and was wondering if that's the best way to do so. Great question. Even got several videos on the channel addressing that. But what do you guys do on your setups?
Y splitters.
Same.
Yeah, there's really, as long as you don't do a Y splitter to a Y splitter to a Y splitter to a Y splitter, you're going to be okay.
I do Y splitter to Y splitter.
But I said 4. So my understanding is and I forget the correct terminology, but basically there's so much output on a, like an RCA pre-out.
Yep.
So if you just split it once, you're totally good. I've even heard of people splitting it twice, totally good. But if you start doing multiple daisy chains, I would like split it. And then if you can daisy chain, maybe from a subwoofer to a subwoofer, to continue that chain if you want to add like 4 or 6 or 8 subwoofers. But when I had 4 separate subwoofers in my theater room, my AVR had 2 pre-outs. So I did a Y splitter on subwoofer 1 output and went to 2 subwoofers. And then I did a Y splitter on the subwoofer 2 out to the other 2 subwoofers. Works great. So you can do that. Or if your subwoofer has inputs and outputs, you can do it that way too. The only thing I don't know is, would that possibly introduce some delay issues because you're going to the first subwoofer, then coming out of that to maybe a second subwoofer?
Should be
is it so fast? Okay.
It's so fast. It won't even matter.
I've always wondered that. I'm like, I know people do it and that they're built that way, but I just didn't know if it would introduce any latency, for that last subwoofer in that chain. So definitely several ways to do that. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it.
I'm splitting my Denon sub out 3 times and I have no problem. I've kind of heard It depends on how much voltage your AVR has, right?
That was the word, voltage. Yep.
Yeah, like a Yamaha traditionally has a little bit lower voltage. Denon and Onkyo traditionally have very high voltage. So if you have a receiver that has higher voltage, 1.2, 1.4 versus the 0.7, which might be like on a Yamaha or something, then you have more room to split. So this answer is going to vary based on your source equipment.
Sure.
I have a Denon. I split it 3 ways. I have no problem at all.
Well, and then RCA and XLR are going to give you different voltages too. Typically, XLR is much higher than RCA.
Correct.
Cool. Good question, man. Predominator. I like that name, man. That's cool. So how did you guys learn about home theaters? Simple but great question. It is. So a lot of mine was forums. So I started my journey 15 years ago. We didn't really, I mean, YouTube was around, but we definitely didn't have home theater YouTube content. And so I would be in the AVS forum. I started a build thread, and that build thread basically said, hey guys, here's my theater, which is nothing. It's blank wall. Here's my room dimensions and here's my plans. And I would post pictures and ask questions, and I would, people would give me feedback. They're like, hey, don't forget to do this, or you might want to consider doing this. So the AVS forum is a great resource for that. Starting your own build thread or reading through other people's build threads to get ideas. It's a wealth of knowledge over there, but it's pretty deep. So you could literally spend your entire life and never scratch the surface of the amount of information there. There are other specific groups I was in, like Clips. I was in there. So I would ask a lot of questions and just surround myself with people that knew more than I did. And of course, now with YouTube, we're able to create content to go to somebody's house like Jonathan and Ryan's house and to share with you what they've done in their system so you can learn from them. So definitely there's some great resources out there on my channel, as well as many other content creators that talk about home theater. So how do you guys learn about home theater, and how did you learn about home theater?
Go ahead, Ryan.
I know one that y'all are going to mention, and I'm jealous.
AVS is a good one, but forums in general are a good one. YouTube's a good one, but it's very important if you go down that road that you verify, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation in that as well. But the biggest one for me, and I think this is what Michael was talking about, is people, right? Yeah. So the Kansas City group and having people around you and being able to talk about things and have these get-togethers. And I don't think there's been one get-together where I haven't learned at least something. Whether it be small or large. The biggest thing is just, and I've always been a big proponent of this, is learn from those around you so that you're not reinventing the wheel, right? Somebody invariably has done this before. And if you can learn from them instead of having to go down and learn that same thing on your own, it's much easier to pass that down than to have to invent it all over again. So if you can do that, get together with those around you. Even if you both don't know, I think if you both go and research it and then come back, you're going to come to a better conclusion than doing it on your own.
I agree, man. And that's exactly what I was talking about. The community that you have in Kansas City, the community that they have in Wisconsin and Illinois and Indiana, being able to go to different people's homes. If you can start that, it was cool. We had our first M-Wave event last July, and a group from Dallas, I basically asked everyone, like, let me know where you're from. And so we found out that there was like 6 or 7 people from Dallas, and they're like, I didn't know you were from Dallas. And we started talking about like, hey, you guys ought to get together or see if you're close, somewhat local. And so they began to do that. And I saw on AVS, they posted their first get together. And so now they're learning from each other. They're hearing each other's systems. You'll go to somebody's home theater and you're like, this was my first time experiencing near field bass. This is my first time experiencing tactile transducers, or a native 4K projector, or an ultra short throw projector. So it definitely just allows you to open up your experience to different things so that you can figure out what you want to do in your home theater. And sometimes you'll go to those and go, dang, I got some upgrades to make, you know? So that's the hard part. That is the hard part.
What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started this hobby back in high school's pawn shop stuff, right? And I switched a lot of gear through college. I always had kind of the home theater stuff going on with college friends. They'd come over and ask me for help with all that. I was into car audio, so just kind of had this in my blood from a young age.
Yeah.
AVS Forum really started getting active in that around 2004 or something. And I've just been to a lot of different rooms and a lot of different crawls and stuff, and just expanded my knowledge a lot there. And then I think besides the get-togethers and the crawls, which I probably would rate as the highest, an OmniMic or learning RAW or some sort of measurement software can really accelerate. And I say this every time that we have these videos, but can really accelerate your knowledge. It makes it very practical. And when you start seeing what your room's doing and what speakers are doing and what subs are doing, it all kind of makes sense more quickly. And so you can really advance your knowledge just so fast by just buying a mic and kind of playing with it and learning how it works and how everything works.
That's gold, man. Good question here. So Stan, we're probably going to keep this one short. Where do you find Velvet? Google,
Hobby Lobby.
Amazon, Hobby Lobby, your local fabric shop. A lot of times they sell it.
Hobby Lobby has triple black, and if you bring your coupon, I think you get like one item 50% off.
Yeah, save you some money there.
Yep.
Cool. Great question. So leadership push, how much different is a $1,000 1080p projector versus a native 4K $1,500 projector? Just getting started in projectors, smaller budget for now. Definitely nothing wrong with that, man. I think we all start off with small budgets, and sometimes we never get beyond small budget, and definitely nothing wrong with that. So Jonathan, you've got some very budget friendly projectors over the years that you've used in your setup. Maybe you can kind of give some light to that.
Yeah, I can probably just give you a model leadership push to take a look at. Look at the Epson 5040. You should be able to get that for about $1,000, and it's a heck of a projector for that money. It's faux 4K, so it's not a true 4K. It's an E-shift, but it's the difference between like an E-shift 4K and a real 4K is pretty small. It's not going to be near as big of a deal as you might think. And then you can just remap everything to SDR with that projector, and it'll throw a really pretty SDR picture. It's a 2017 model, so it's got a little age on it. It was $3,000 new, but they're all over the forums for $1,000, and that's a great option for you.
And those are used, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
or do
and
they still have some new ones?
No, they won't have new ones of that, but it's going to be so. I mean, just to put it very straightforward, it's going to be so much better than like a 4K DLP for $1,000 or $1,500. I mean, we saw that in January's M-Wave.
Yeah.
The $1,000 DLPs they just don't have a good enough black floor to really be enjoyable. They're going to be more for like if you're going to put a movie night outside in the backyard and you don't really care about a great picture. Whereas that Epson 5040 UB is, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of projectors like some of these guys here have as well. That's the one to go to for $1,000.
Yeah, that's what I had. That was my third projector. I had 2 Panasonics, and they stopped making them. So I'm like, man, I'm wanting to upgrade, but they don't make them. And I love the Panasonic. And Epson at the time was one of the very few that did the lens memory. And so without going to a JVC or Sony, which was like twice the price, I'm like, I'm not there yet. So, but yeah, Epson makes a beautiful image. And it'll mess with you. Jonathan pulled some not trickery, but man, he got me. I actually picked the Epson over the JVC. I thought it looked better, man, at his side by side.
Leadership push, that's important to know. If you're on bright source content, especially, or even just mixed, just straight, anything that's not totally dim, because the JVC is going to rule on the dim IPs. But I did a little blind comparison at the M-Wave for some of the ticket holders that came by my theater to view, and we did the Epson 5040 versus the JVC NZ7, right? That's a $11,000 projector versus that $1,000 projector now. And at the end, we played a clip. It was 4 minutes long. It was one of the 8K HDR clips on YouTube. And at the end, I just said, which one of these was $11,000 image? We had them side by side on the screen, and the vote was 3-3. And there was a lot of people that didn't even vote because they thought it was too close to even like throw a comparison out there. So that tells you a lot, right? I mean, it's $1,000. And where it's not going to do as well, if I had put an OLED demo up there, which was like near black content with really dim, like no bright highlights, just deep blacks, it's going to lose. It's going to lose every time there. But it's going to be so much better than those $1,000 DLPs, which are like 10 times the elevated black floor of that Epson. So yeah. I mean, I hate to say it's one trick pony, but seeing as many projectors as I have, it kind of is like that's where to go.
It's a great bang for your buck, 100%.
That was going to be my recommendation too. 5040.
Yeah,
all day.
Cool deal. Last 3 questions here. So Lucifer says, how much do you lose from 7.1.6 versus 7.1.4, 5.1.4, currently stuck with 5.1.2, and don't have much to compare because all of this I've heard, or this is all I've heard. So how much do you lose going from, I guess maybe his thing is like, how much am I missing out by not having 2 extra either front wides or surround backs and 2 additional Atmos speakers?
Really, in my opinion, after a 5, and I'm going to say you need more than 1 sub. That's my personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
But from a 2.2 to anything more than that, it's going to be well into the realm of diminishing returns. Like I've heard some really nice setups that are just 5.2.2 or 7.2.2, and everything is like a tick better, but it gets smaller ticks better.
Well, and even if it's a
increase the
smaller
speaker
tick,
count.
there's a lot of content like Disney doesn't even support 6.
Yeah,
Correct.
Gotcha. So my thought on this is I have 2 kind of thoughts. Number 1, to me, it's hard to get a true immersive experience with only 2 Atmos speakers above head. And the reason why I say that is because in Atmos, you can have content come from the front elevation or front Atmos speakers, and then it can pan to the rear. If you've only got 2 in the middle, it stays in the middle. It never moves. And so it's almost, I kind of equate it to trying to do surround sound with just 2 front speakers. You're going to get an enveloping sound, but if something moves from the front to the back, there's no way physically to reproduce that without physical speakers behind you. And so I feel the same way about Atmos. So if you can go to 4 Atmos, I think it's definitely, it may not be huge night and day, but there are plenty of movies out there that will play content from the front left speaker only. And then it'll move to the front right, or I'm sorry, the rear right speaker. And so if you had them both in the middle, it just kind of stays there. There's nowhere to go. The other thing is I really don't see a huge benefit in having 6 Atmos speakers unless your room is just really, really long too. If you've got 3 rows of seating or more, it might be difficult to get an immersive experience unless your ceiling is pretty high. If you've got 8-foot ceilings, that dispersion pattern is going to be smaller than if you had 10-foot ceilings or 12-foot ceilings, and that sound is able to disperse and cover a broader area. So that's kind of my take on that. But I've always said I would much rather have a properly set up 5.1.2 than an improperly set up 7.1.6. It's a night and day experience. So again, a lot of it's calibration and just setting it up right to begin with.
Jed Presley brings up a good point. Big price jump in AVRs or pre-pros to go to 6 Atmos heights.
Yeah. I don't think even I've got a Marantz AV7706. At the time it was $3,000. I think now it's probably 3,600.
Does yours support 6?
No.
I don't think so.
4. So you're right. You're going to spend a lot more money to get 6. I don't think if I went from 4 to 6, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been missing.
I don't know that I would go to 6 unless I had something like DTSX Pro or like a Trenov or something that's able to really take advantage of them, or multi-rows of seating. I don't think you're gaining really enough to warrant the extra expense.
Yeah.
Even then, I don't know that it's worth it.
Yeah. All right. No more starring, Ryan.
I'm done. Sorry.
So can I kind of counter you a little bit on that last one?
Yeah,
Michael?
go ahead. Yeah.
So,
we'll come back
so
to
there's
that
no right or wrong, right? This is just opinions. But I guess my thought on this is, so I've been in rooms that have and my own room for that matter for quite a while was like a 5.x.2 type system, right? In fact, I just had 2 speakers in here in this room for 3 or 4 years. If it's set up right and the distances are right and the angles are right, let's see if I can get my finger where it needs to go because it's mirrored, so it's a little confusing. My speakers were here. When I had Mackie speakers, I just had 2 ceiling speakers, and they were there, and then the one in front of it, right? And here's my seating. So if a sound moved from the front speaker across the room to the back side or over here, it's mirrored, so I'm screwing myself up. But as it moves, it's going to go through the ceiling speaker and then go to the rear speaker. And so I don't know that it gets stuck on the ceiling because your front, your sides, your bed layer kind of helps direct that. It gives you the overhead sense, but it directs that. And so my take has been this. I think going from a 7.1 system to a 7.1.2 or a 7.1.4 system. In my room, when people have asked me in this past, I've always said like 15% improvement. So there's an improvement just going to a Dolby Atmos mixed track, even if you don't have Atmos ceiling speakers. And we've done this in a blind meet in Kansas City. Like the way they mix Dolby Atmos, even if you don't have the ceiling speakers, is an improvement over just Dolby Digital. So there's something to be had for that. And I think some of that gets mixed in and equated to the ceiling speakers being so much better when it's really just a better source.
Gotcha.
And so I guess what I'm saying is I think you can go a long way with 2 ceiling speakers, because there's been so many movies where I like to tinker and play with stuff, right? So I'm thinking of this movie called American Sniper or something like that, where there was a sandstorm at the end, right? And there's so much blustering around as far as sound in the room. And I thought, this is going to be a new showcase for me. I'm going to make this on my demo reel that I play for guests.
Yeah.
Well, before I do that, just as a curiosity thing, I always turn off my bed layer and I just have the Atmos playing. So I turn off the amps for the bed layer and I just have the 4 ceiling speakers.
Yeah.
That scene that I thought was so incredible with like ceiling speakers and everything playing had nothing coming out, inexplainably had nothing coming out of the ceiling speakers. And so there's some trickery that your mind can pull and put things up there that you don't know. And that's not the only movie that's happened to me with. And at M-Wave, in fact, they had that. It was just bed layer, right? And I heard people say in the audience as I was in that for an audition, this sounds like it has Atmos speakers, but it's just bed layer.
Gotcha.
So there's some trickery that can make it get better. And I think ultimately, if you quantify in the sense like how much did Atmos ceiling speakers bring into your equation? Like you had 80% enjoyment before, now you have 100% enjoyment. Maybe it's 20%.
Right.
Okay. How much of that 20% is 2 speakers versus 4 speakers?
I got you.
It starts getting smaller and smaller.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
that
that's
makes
all.
Sense. Yeah. I was just thinking of like specific movies when, like, say for instance, when you have like Gravity. Gravity is a good example of that. The other one is A Quiet Place. So you've got a monster that physically is, when you're looking at the screen, you see the stairs in front of this lady, and you hear the monster in the front left speaker. And so if it was directly overhead, then it starts walking down the steps. To me, it just seems weird, because it's like, okay, how is he above me? But then I'm seeing him in front of me. So that's just kind of my thought. And again, I haven't tested it in my own theater.
Well, remember,
room, so I'm doing logic.
You can do a lot with stereo imaging. So you can actually place an object between speakers with the imaging and how loud it's coming out of multiple.
But how do you move it forward if the speakers are directly above your head? That's what I'm
using
saying.
The bed layer.
Yeah, the bed layer brings it forward or backwards.
Okay, all right, I could maybe see that.
I think there's a bigger importance here on the mix, though, because
100%.
there are movies that
100%.
just the Atmos, the height speakers take it to a whole nother level.
Exactly.
But I think people, and Jonathan, back to your Sandstorm experience, people overestimate the amount of content that is really utilizing the height channels. And there's not as many, or there's not as many circumstances, even in movies, that really utilize them. And when they're utilized properly, it's amazing.
It's cool. Yeah. And again, I'm thinking of a couple of specific movies, it's not the vast majority.
I wish there were more, but there's a lot less content that comes out of that than people think.
Yep. We're going to go through these because Ryan keeps adding.
Between we go there. Before we go there.
Oh, Gotham, appreciate this $2 super chat. Has anyone managed to use CP850 for home use? I don't know what a CP850
is. That's a Dolby like a direct Dolby processor.
I have not.
Nope.
Man, that's high end, man.
You're in a different, playing a different game, Gotham.
That's a different league.
I have not done, my friend.
Yeah, I am not there on that level. So Daryl says recently released soundbars seem to provide impressive Atmos home theater audio for less than $2,000, on par with entry-level home theater gear. I have a 7.2.4 home theater. What is your take on this?
I never heard a $2,000 soundbar, so I can't comment. I've never heard a soundbar that I would put in even entry-level home theater gear, but maybe you've got a creative makes a nice one, I hear, and there's some nice ones from the AVS forum reports. I just haven't experienced it myself.
Sennheiser makes a really nice one, but you're playing to get the true Atmos, right?
It's like psychoacoustics. Is that
talk about with the heights is you're having to get a room that's perfectly set up for bounce or for reflection, and that's hard to do, and most rooms aren't set up that way. And even then, the drivers on those are so
They're small.
stinking small. I mean,
like 3-inch drivers,
even
2-inch drivers.
smaller than that on most of them. So I know that they're okay. I used to have a sound bar in my living room. Okay, I'm an AV dealer, and there is a place for these things. Like there
100%.
is a good place and a good use case for them. Not everybody can put a home theater in their living room, right? I totally get that. If you want better audio than what your TV's delivering, soundbar all day, every day.
Yep.
I totally get it. But when you're going down like an entry level home theater, I mean, Jonathan, you had some excellent experience with the Mackeys and stuff that are not expensive. And if a properly set up, even budget home theater, I think will knock a soundbar out of the park.
Yep, 100%. I'm with you, man. I used to kind of poo-poo on soundbars, and I've loosened up over the years.
There are some poo-pooey soundbars.
I know. But the reality is that I think there is an application for those, and they do sound better.
Yeah, they do.
Prime example. I just set up a friend of mine, hadn't heard from him since high school, reached out to me today and said, "Hey, could you help me set this up?" And I went, "Sure." So I went over to his house today. We set up, he had a Samsung soundbar, very budget friendly, really small subwoofer, and it 100% sounds way better than his TV speakers. He's got a like 77-inch TV. Those speakers sound like garbage on a TV. Most speakers do. And so definitely I mean, that TV had zero bass, like none, compared to the subwoofer that has some bass kind of thing. So I agree. I think it would be an upgrade, but to say, could this soundbar really compete with a budget, like regular home theater, maybe some bookshelf speakers and a small sub? It'd be hard to do that. But $2,000 isn't a lot if you're talking about an AVR and speakers and a subwoofer. So that, but there's definitely some budget friendly stuff out there and don't forget the used market. You know, if you've got a really, really low budget, dude, hit that used market all day long. And then, you know, eventually down the road, you can sell that and upgrade and buy new products if you want, but definitely nothing wrong with the used market. I did that for probably 14 years. So
Michael, with your soundbar that you set up today, compare it to, like, say you bought a $100 used bookshelf system and a $150 AVR off Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Which way do you go there?
1,000%. I'd take the 2 bookshelf speakers. Yeah. Any day, you know. Like you said, I don't think the upfiring are going to do anything in that little bitty. I mean, 'cause this is a small soundbar. This is not a $2,000 soundbar.
Right.
So it's not going to do Atmos at all, you know.
Right.
You're just going to get some sound up front, which is cool. It's better than, and it gets louder than the TV speakers. So that's good.
Right.
You do have some rumble, but man, I'd take a quality pair of, I mean, dude, even the 20-year-old Infinity speakers or clip speakers or whoever, you can get some good sound out of those.
Sure.
Pair it with a old school Velodyne subwoofer, man. A little 10-inch subwoofer you can get for probably $80 or less. And that thing will slam all day, every day over that Samsung soundbar. But again, we're kind of comparing that budget one with this $2,000 one. Maybe those subwoofers are much better. I don't know. I haven't reviewed any, so maybe I'll have to get some on the channel, and so that I can share personal knowledge and experience of those. Last couple questions, James. So if subs are mono, what is the best benefit of independent sub outs? Great question. I think there's 2 that I can think of. One would be kind of like delay. So if you got a subwoofer in the front right, and let's say a subwoofer in the back left, and they're both different distances from your listening position, having independent sub outs is going to allow your AVR to calibrate those to where that sound hits your, like your listening position at the same time. So I think that's one of the things. EQ, it's still the same signal. You're getting a 0.1 channel. You're getting an LFE channel. It's the same information, but I think that's one of the benefits of that, as well as level. You know, the AVR can adjust the level of both of them so that they're the same volume when one of them's further than the other. Any other benefits you can think?
Jonathan?
Yeah, no, he named the 3: level, SPL level, EQ, and what was the third one? There are 3.
Like delay.
Delays. Yes. In the next world, when we go to 4 subwoofer outs, they're talking about that Dirac spatial audio, where they'll be able to help you cancel room reflections and room boundary interactions and that kind of stuff. So stay tuned, because in the next few years there may be some new stuff coming out.
Yeah, stuff's changing really rapidly, man. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new a lot of the new Denon and a lot of the new Marantz are having 4 subwoofer outputs, which is really, hey, you know.
And then also
cool
tactile,
game
right?
changer.
Tactile transducers, especially with these new 4
Oh, there you
output
go.
Denon and Marantz. They have one of them can be turned on to tactile, and it will take out the EQ.
Nice.
So you don't, or you can apply unique EQ. Either way.
Super cool. So some flexibility there. Good deal. All right, last.
Hold on.
Okay. Let me unstar that one. Joel Green, appreciate the super chat there, buddy. I killed my 11.2 AVR Marantz 8015. What?
He's asking, I think, which one would you buy? Marantz 8015 or Denon 8500? Maybe.
I got you.
Is that the Denon 8500, the new one, the X8500 HA?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the new.
I mean, for channel count and amplifiers and stuff, I would do the 8500, but I don't know what the price difference is. I mean, if you want the best price, come talk to me.
Yeah. So just
selfless promotion.
It's all good.
It's really about what you need. They're going to be very similar products. The Marantz has got preamp, it's XLR out. The Denon's going to have internal amps, and it's going to have RCA out. The functionality is going to be very similar between
the 8015 still has internal amps.
Yeah.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a pre-pro?
No, it's a beast, man. I had that one before I went to the AV7705 and then the AV7706. It's an incredible.
What was the model you had, Ryan? Was it? It's not this one then, because yours was a pre-pro.
So I've had a 6015 and I've had an 8805.
8805 is the one I was thinking of.
Okay. The 8805 is their big preamp. But these guys are going to be pretty similar. My best guess is that the 8500 is going to have bigger amps in it, would be my guess, because that's its claim to fame, is the amplification. I think it's also got more channels, doesn't it? It's bigger than an 11.2.
It's a 13.2. Yeah. I'm looking at their website is booty slow right now. I don't know what's going on.
But seriously, Joel, if you want to talk pricing or something, or want to look into one of those, shoot me an email and we'll post that.
It's like $45.99. Ryan could probably at least get it to you for $45.98. You know,
$200. He told me $200.
Save $1, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nah, but definitely hit Ryan up. I can put his.
We'll do it at the end.
Okay. So last couple questions there. Looking at I swear these things are. You keep starring more.
I'm sorry, they have good questions.
So I'm trying to be like, I know Jonathan's like, man, I can't be on here all night. So 8760, I'm sorry, 87 Oprah Winfrey, looking for a 5-channel power amplifier, 3000 to 3500. Any recommendations? I 100% love the monoprice amplifiers. They're built by ATI or designed by ATI. They're rock solid. I run the 11X in my setup. It's 11 channels. Their 5 channels would be 200 by 5. Don't know what the MSRP on that is. Price. What would you guys recommend?
It's a good choice, and it's not going to be $33,000.
Oh, you're going to save a lot
for something that's never going to die outside of monoprice.
For that price,
depends on the type of amplifier you're going for. For Class D, I'd probably say Buckeye, who we're starting a partnership. So cool. Buckeye and I are, if you guys are familiar with AVS forums, he's on there, but he's kind of a direct seller for Class D amplification. Yeah. Class D is going to be like low 90% efficiency. So you're wasting very, very little power. You're not having to use tremendous amounts of power coming in from the wall. They're much lighter. They're much cooler. So if you want Class D, that would be my recommendation. Outside of ATI or something like Monoprice, who offer great amps. If you want somebody that's been doing this for a long time, like ATI, Parasound.
Yeah, Parasound. I just don't know if they have a 5-channel. I don't know what their MSRP is on theirs.
I don't know. I'm a Parasound dealer. I'd have to look it up. Yeah. But Oprah Winfrey, if you have any interest in amplifiers, this has been a lot of promotion for me.
Yeah.
But seriously, reach out to me because I'm going to try and take care of you.
Yeah, Ryan he's shameful. I mean, shameless plugs all day long, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hit him up on Ryan at ascendav.net.
So how come he's only looking for a 5-channel amp? You only have 5 speakers, or are you looking to fill out? Like, do we know more information? I'm just curious.
That's
because your price was $6,000 or $1,600. You showed on that, right?
Yeah.
But it used to be $2,000 for like a 7-channel. Maybe it's $1,900. You still have that up?
Nah.
Or an 11-channel is just a little bit more than that, right? So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is.
But don't you, when you start going up to an 11-channel, doesn't it reduce the amount of power per?
So
per
mine is,
channel?
and that's a great great thought. So the Monolith 11X, when you get above their 7-channel amplifier, the 11X drops down to 200 by 3, and then you have 100 by 8. So you would have, in my case, I've got 200 for my LCR, left, center, right. And then I have 100 to my side surrounds, 100 to my rear surrounds, 100 to each of my Atmos speakers. But when you got efficient speakers like I do, doesn't matter. 100 is plenty. But if you're got inefficient speakers, so looking at the price is $2,500 for that 11-channel amplifier. So that's still, like you were saying, that will get you still even well under that 3,000, 3,500.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beast of an amplifier. I think
it is. Something else to consider though too is what speakers these are, because 100 watts may not be enough.
Yeah.
And his listening conditions and all. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this equation.
Yeah. But this is something you can consider. It's a 93. It's a beast, man.
It is.
It's no joke. It's built.
They should put a warning sign: potential hernia.
Yeah. No. But there's some great amplifier. Now, if you're talking, we found out at M-Wave, you're likely not going to be able to hear a massive difference, if at all, any, in a blind test between some of these amplifiers.
Mm-mm.
So just because you spend more doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hear more. So
the only thing that I'm able to hear in amplifiers, depending on them, is the noise floor.
Mm-hmm.
And how they deal with higher volumes and less efficient speakers when you start running into distortion.
Sure. Yeah.
But for when they're playing within their bounds, I can't tell.
Yeah. Alpha has a question here. Michael, what is the name of the Dallas group? I'm glad you asked. So I will pull this up.
See, what if I didn't post that question?
I saw it. That's a good question.
Sure. Oh, see?
Jonathan's just like, dude, man.
I am gonna have to make a limit on this. My wife was like,
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be respectful. Mine keeps adding.
For that purpose, I could just bow out and you guys could continue. I see Croson put that in the chat. That's totally true.
And you're well welcome anytime.
Yeah.
If you got to run, say, look, guys, peace out. Love y'all. See ya. And we will not get offended at all. We'll just talk bad about you when you leave.
Yeah.
It's all good. I will send a link in the chat over here. But if you search for official DFW Texas Home Theater Tours, you can see they actually attended the M-Wave event that we put on several months ago. And this was super cool just to hear that this group of people are now they're trying to meet on regular basis. So definitely hit them up on the AVS forum. These home theater get-togethers, or home theater crawls, as some people refer to them, they're phenomenal. You get to meet enthusiasts, hang out with them, get to hear their setup.
They're dangerous.
Eat their food, so it's definitely
and by dangerous, I mean they expose you to things that you didn't know you wanted to buy.
For sure. So let me go over to live. So I'm going to post this in the chat so you guys can have direct access to that. There we go.
Super chat.
All right. Stan Lewis, appreciate the super chat. $2 super chat. Have to head out, guys. Thanks for the live Q&A, man. That's what we want to do. We want to help you guys answer your questions, be the best resource that we can. And I love being able to have Ryan as well as Jonathan on the stream, because let's just face it, they're smarter than I am. And they have a lot more knowledge.
I'm just very good at acting.
Yeah.
So we are having a speaker meet in the park on October 22nd for any of you guys who are watch it that are in the Kansas City area. You might
A
consider coming out and
speaker
meet some of
meet in the park.
Mhm.
So what,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
that going to look like?
So we've had 4 of them, 5 of them before, and we just go out to a central park in Kansas City, and people from all over the metro that are part of this local enthusiast group, we just bring speakers and AV gear out there, and we have a barbecue, and we enjoy each other's company and listen to music and stuff. Crank it up, and it's a good day.
Right.
So that's October 22nd. There's a forum post on ABS forum and the Kansas City thread, and also an area meets thread. So if you're in this area, look us up. Come out and join us. It's free.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, I'm charging. admittance.
It's free if you come in my gate.
Sorry about that. That was my daughter calling it. She said I can call her back in a minute. So great question. Here we go. Last 2. Michael, let me pull Jonathan out. He's like, whoa, why is my head so big? Alpha Mole says, Michael, what's the name? Okay, so we did that. That's all right. Pull that off. Last question of the night. Adam says, what do you recommend as a good streaming device for Netflix, Spotify? I use my Xbox Series X right now, but I'm always dealing with audio lag issues. I run an NVIDIA Shield on my setup, and I like it. Jonathan, what do you run in your setup?
I've come to like the Apple TV the best, and I used to like the Fire Stick the best, but Fire Stick's been a little buggy for me, so I switched to Apple TV, and it's really nice. I have a Roku, a Fire Stick, and an Apple TV.
Okay.
And home theater PC, but Apple TV is my favorite.
And that runs about what?
120, 130 if you watch for a sale on it, 180 normal price, but they discount them regularly.
Okay, cool.
That's going to be my recommendation too. Something to be careful of when you get into these devices is that not all of the apps across different ecosystems are the same. So like YouTube on the NVIDIA Shield, I'm pretty sure it's still this way, does not support HDR. Whereas if you go to like Apple TV, it does.
Right.
So there's just things that you need to consider, that apps are not the same across different platforms. So from NVIDIA to Apple TV to Fire Stick to any of these, they're not the same. But I'm going to go with Jonathan and say that if you're just doing streaming, Apple TV every day, all day. Yeah. If you're doing something with Plex that's playing back from a local library, you're definitely going to want something like an NVIDIA Shield because it does lossless audio pass through, or something like a ZDoo or a ZPD.
Right. Sure.
It's going to be my recommendation because the Apple TV does not. I recognize that there are workarounds for that, but most people are not going to do that, myself included.
Yep. Super, super cool, man. So there was something I was wanting to do. Oh, last super chat here. We'll catch this one. Predominator, appreciate the super chat. Dream Media, good for home theater for me. I can't DIY. So he's saying, should I go with maybe a custom installer? So if they're in your area, I've never dealt with them as far as like, having them. I've never seen their work. I know they're on YouTube. So definitely reach out to them. Maybe go meet up with them. See what they've done. Ask for references.
One thing I will say about Dream Media, I won't say anything either way, is that they will do the design, but they will not actually do the implementation. They're going to farm things out to a local installer who will do it. So Preminator, if you want to talk about anything, just shoot me an email or something, and I can see if I can guide you on any of that stuff, and we can have some conversations about that. Even if I'm not local, I may be able to help you out.
Hook a brother up somehow. Well, very cool, man. Some great discussion, great conversation. Appreciate you guys. I know we went a little over an hour, Jonathan. I tried, bro.
I just went a little over. Sorry.
Really Ryan just you guys are asking awesome questions, and really I'm trying to be respectful, but like, I think like you said, that would be a good option is like, hey guys, peace out, had fun. And then you just bail. We won't.
Yeah, sure. I don't think you need to worry about that. We wanted you to leave anyway.
That's what we
you control the invites.
I did.
So super cool. Man. Are we still? Yeah. See, Tony's like, are we still going? Yeah. I tried to get out of here 45 minutes ago.
I just can't stop talking about this stuff. It's too good.
Yeah.
It's too good. I enjoy it too much.
So, well, guys, we're going to head out, wrap up this live stream. We appreciate all your support. We do this every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What would that be? 5 p.m. Pacific, all the way over on the West Coast.
Yep.
So we do this every single week. Really, we try to handle one thought at the very beginning, one question, and hit that, and then we go right into your questions. So we want to provide as much value to you guys doing this. I've got several more videos coming out from Cydia, about to wrap those up. And then I've got a home theater tour from Ike Easy HT Tech. I'll be doing his here shortly. We've got Absolute Ultimate AV. I've got to edit that one from Cedia. And then I've got a bunch of products in for review that I've got to start getting on. So definitely make sure, and we crossed that 100,000 mark. Super pumped about that. All the giveaways have been announced.
Where's your play button?
You have to wait till YouTube basically sends you, they kind of have to verify that you legitimately have 100,000. So supposedly in a couple days, maybe a week or two, I'll get a notification in YouTube Studio that says, hey, congratulations, fill out this form, let us know what you want on the plaque, and we'll ship that to you. So once I get that in, then I'll be doing a little unboxing and another little celebration on that. So I don't get somebody asked me, they said, do you get a raise from YouTube? No, you don't. No, it's really all about views, average view duration, how long people watch, those types of things. And YouTube pays you on the ads that are played. So it really has zero to do about subscribers. But for the most part, the more subscribers you have in general, you're going to have more people watching your content. And so but yeah, there's no bonus when, you hit any kind of milestone. It's really just a personal thing. I've got 580 videos on my channel in 4 years. A lot of those videos take me 8 to 10 hours just to edit. That's not even time listening to the product or visiting somebody's home theater tour. It's physically just editing. And so there's a lot of work that goes into it. If you saw some of the behind the scenes on Home Theater Gamers channel, you kind of saw like what we went through on a day-to-day basis from content creator standpoint. And just gives you some insight. But I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. And that's hilarious, Jonathan. Jonathan thought it was a YouTube plague.
In today's day and age, that wouldn't be out of the question.
I love it, man. So cool deal, guys. Hope you all have an incredible week. Jonathan, as always, love having you on the show.
Yeah, man.
Ryan,
thanks for joining us.
Super, super cool. If you guys have any questions about home theater gear, if you're looking to upgrade your setup, you can definitely reach out to Ryan at ascendav.net. He'll be glad to hook you up. Best pricing, best customer service. And he's just a cool dude, man. I think I'm going to keep you around for a little while.
Yeah. It's nice.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great week.